learning, I do have to figure out some new rhythms and find some margin to think more about the next and to learn and just find things I can grab a hold of to be the expert for my church in this role. So I'm really excited to see what all's going to come about in 2024 and how I can serve Bethlehem as a whole better.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 22 of the Missional Marketing Podcast. My name is Bart Blair, and it's my privilege to welcome you to the 146th edition of our show. If you happen to be new to the show and you haven't yet subscribed wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, we want to remind you to do that so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you happen to be watching on our YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you are notified when we have new content on our YouTube channel. We post additional content, not just this podcast, on our YouTube channel, and maybe there's some other stuff there that would be helpful for you. Today's conversation is one that I'm really excited to set up for you. Unfortunately, I didn't get to be a part of it in real time. It took me a little while to get it set up, and then I was a bit under the weather on the day that we had to record this. So I bowed out and I let my co-host, Jason Hamrock, the CEO of Missional Marketing, lead this conversation. And our guest this week is Greene from Bethlehem Church in Bethlehem, Georgia. Again, sorry that I didn't get to participate in the conversation because Candy is really a very remarkable leader, very humble, but clearly knows her stuff. And the way that she and her team are supporting the mission and the growth of their church, I think you're just going to take a lot of creative insight from some of the things that she has to share in this episode. So again, we want to thank you again for tuning into our show. We hope that you're finding this content to be helpful. If so, make sure that you leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And also, if you're listening to this in real time, it's the end of the first full week of February. Easter is barreling down on us. And if you don't yet have a marketing plan for your Easter services this year, you should probably call us ASAP, set a call with one of our coaches so that we can walk through how we can help you promote your Easter services this year. Make sure that you do that. You don't want to miss this awesome opportunity to connect with people who are outside of your church and invite them into the gospel-centric experience this Easter. Well, thanks again. And without any further delay, here's Jason Hamrock and Candy Greene.
Well, hey, Candy, welcome to the show. So glad to have you. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you for the invite. I'm excited to be part of this today.
Yeah, me too. I love the conversation we're going to have because you and I are both kind of cut from the same cloth. You're a communications director at your church, and I'm a former comm director guy. So, Bart is always on our podcast, but he's not here today, and he's a pastor. So you and I are going to speak a lot of language and talk things that a lot of people will understand, but I'm really pumped about our talk today. So
me too.
Thanks for joining us. So why don't you take a minute, just update our audience about like a little bit of who you are, your background, and what you found yourself doing these days.
Yes. So really neat. I don't know if you expected this, but I had a career in banking. I was actually a commercial loan officer. I was in banking for 14 years. I know I look super young. I obviously started in banking when I was very young. But I have been on staff at Bethlehem for 7 years now. And it was kind of a funny conversation. My husband and I were very involved at the church, and I had the opportunity to be very involved in the local community through my role at the bank. And so I was talking with Bethlehem in volunteer role, helping expand some community initiatives. And Pastor Jason and another staff member had a meeting with me, and he said, "Hey, you're called to be here. Like, we want you to join our team and come on staff." And he goes, "I will pay you half as much and work you twice as hard, and it's going to be great."
Where do I sign up?
Yes. And I just said, "Where do I sign up? Like, when do you want me to start?" Everything will fall into place. My heart was certainly here. Never thought an opportunity would happen for me to join the team here. So that was 7 years ago. And as I had mentioned, being super engaged in the community, I was brought in to help expand our community initiatives. Bethlehem already had great involvement in supporting the community, no strings attached, being super engaged. There was already a path that had been paved so well. And I just came in to kind of expand that. But it was going to be a transition. So I actually came in as guest services director, my very first role.
Okay.
That was about a 10-month window, and community was quickly taken off, and I needed to focus my attention there. So somebody else came in to continue the torch of guest services. So I found myself as community director up until 2 years ago when I moved over into communications. And it was really a dream job for me, what I'm doing now, and something that in my own natural abilities, I didn't think I was equipped to do. It was always kind of those really cool other team members that held the role, and it was just like really neat what they get to do. But, I'm not really called to do that. So I was ecstatic when that door opened and I transitioned over 2 years ago.
Okay, so I got like a billion questions about that, but I think it's a huge advantage for you that you served in the guest services, because you got to understand how that world works a little bit and how we're helping our guests,
Yes,
assimilate and move in. But as a comm director, your role is kind of like internal and external. So get new
exactly.
people come in, but now you get to understand how they do get assimilated because of that guest experience work that you got to do. That's got to be really helpful for you as you're kind of doing your job as a comm director.
It is. And I think one of the biggest advantages was just already knowing our culture. Yeah. So that having spent being a church member for a long time, and then coming in on staff for 5 years before I moved over, like that was literally, I feel like, about half the job, just knowing the culture and making sure everything we do, is through that filter. So that was a huge advantage. And then, like you said, just the knowledge of what the teams are doing and what their goals are, and having worked firsthand with volunteers and being able to think through sometimes what serves them best as they serve others has definitely been rewarding and helpful.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So tell us just a little bit about Bethlehem, the church, and then about your team.
Yes. So Bethlehem, we are here located in Georgia, Bethlehem, Georgia. Our lead pastor is Jason Britt, and he came on staff probably pushing maybe 13 years ago now. And I have been a member of Bethlehem since 2002. So I was here as an attendee and member pre-Jason Britt, and the church has always had a lot of great history. But Jason, his leadership and just the things the Lord put into him just really kind of changed our course and catapulted. Jason always says that our best days are ahead, not behind us. And so like that's truly how we operate. So it's been really neat seeing all the growth. When he came, we were maybe about 350 adult attendees on a Sunday. And now with kids, we are running 3 campuses and over 5,000 people a weekend. Wow. So a lot of growth. And of course, it's not just about the numbers, the baptisms, the life change, the groups involvement has been really, really cool to not only be on the sidelines, but have a front row seat to see that happen has been neat for me. And it's really been a unique and super exciting time to be a part of Bethlehem in any capacity, because we are in the midst of an initiative. We have a main 900-seat worship auditorium here at our primary campus, and we will be relocating by the end of the year to an 1,800-seat auditorium. And then as soon as we land that plane, both of our campuses will start expansion because they are out of space as well, primarily the next gen spaces. So that's what's another piece that's really neat about my story. It was actually August of 2021, our leadership asked me to continue my community director role, but step in as project manager for what became known as our Because initiative. And so this is the engagement aspect of it, not construction. So overseeing the print pieces, putting it together, getting the content, just all of those things, the experience for the events associated with it. And so right after they asked me to do that, simultaneously, we were looking for a new comms director. And there was just a passing conversation that, wow, man, you should be comms director, but we already asked you to do this role. And this is super important, very important season for us. And then as we went about the next few months, the end of the year, it made a lot of sense. Those roles were married together in a lot of ways, because you've got to have your pulse on everything going on. And you have to be careful that you're not burdening the congregation. So we can't be having all these kind of one-off events happening, like knowing one of the more important things for them to be a part of is, something happening with the initiative, advanced commitment night, or, whatever it may be. So it was super cool that I got to be in both roles, and currently still am in both roles, because it's a 2-year initiative. And when we hit this past December, it started year 2. So we are in our second year of that. So a lot of moving parts have been taking place for the last year and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've learned a ton. You learned a ton, and you learned it on the go. Tell me a couple of things. I mean, how have you really built your department? I know you stepped into an existing communications department, but from your experience in the banking days, which is, you're still doing business, how have you brought some of those things that you learned over to your role today?
Yeah. Man, just heavy attention to detail is a big thing. And you asked me earlier about the team. So our communications team is made up, of course, of me. And then I have a creative content director, Nicole, on the team, who does the majority of our graphics, super important. And then I have Casey, who is our social media specialist. And then, so that's direct staff. And then I have a ministry partner called Clever. I don't know if you're familiar with Clever, but we just have a lot for a single person or a couple of people to be able to maintain. So Clever has been a great partner, helping with some of the graphic creation. I depend on them a lot for website updates and stuff that I need done. And that's been something I have brought to our communications team, is the organizing. And when ministries submit requests, I kind of streamlined that process. There were form for this and a form for this, and I merged all that in together to one form. And you've got drop-down boxes. So if you don't mark this one, you're not going to be bothered with all the things that go with it. And then they filter through me, and I decide, I know what's on Nicole's plate, I know what's on Clever's plate, and then I can decide the best avenue to send that through. And then also, it's always easier when you have somebody sitting at a desk you could go walk up to. So that comes into play with working on things. And then obviously Nicole's going to know our culture best. So sometimes there might be a piece that really, really, really needs to just bleed culture. And that's something Clever does a great job, though. But just prioritizing tasks and deciding what the best avenue is for something to be worked on has been super, super helpful for us as a whole the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, that is such a key thing, is understanding that there's a lot of moving parts, just with the campaign itself, there's a ton to do there, but now you've got all the ministries you're serving, plus, the weekend and all that stuff. Is you've got to have a really great project management system in place. Otherwise things get kind of out of hand. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Year 1, I felt like I was just shoveling buckets of water out of the boat, just trying to not let anything fall, make sure the ministries are served, make sure the initiative is prioritized, and we're doing all the things we need to do there to keep it in front of people, and telling stories, is so important, a big piece of that. And so, and year one, honestly, was a good dose of humility for me, because I was used to being the expert in what I was doing, born and raised in my community, and had a ton of community involvement. And I come over here and I lead our community ministry. And so I could be in any conversation and whatever you're looking for. Hey, let's do something to support single moms for Mother's Day. Well, I could just name you. Okay, well, here's all the organizations doing a great work in our community. Who do you want me to reach out to? To, oh my goodness, like, okay, church is going to be iced out this weekend, like 3 weeks into my new position. Like, what does it look like to communicate that? So that was a good dose of humility, and I learned to be comfortable with asking questions, which is super, super important. And then year two, this may be more than you're looking for, but last year two, the enemy kind of tried to work that into some spiritual warfare about whether, I'm really qualified to be doing what I'm doing, type thing. But that was healthy to work through that and battle through that to shift me to my focus this year is really a huge learner posture. Like, it's like, okay, I know I don't know everything, and I'm wanting to learn, but I'm so busy, so much going on. I've just got to know enough to get by. And then year two, a lot of pieces with the initiative in this role still. And so now, not that things ever slow down or get easier, but it's just, okay, now I'm learning. I do have to figure out some new rhythms and find some margin to think more about the next and to learn and just find things I can grab a hold of to be the expert for my church in this role. So I'm really excited to see what all's going to come about in 2024 and how I can serve Bethlehem as a whole better.
Oh, what you said there, though, that is so true, because I think as people start off into this role, there's that season where you're kind of on a honeymoon. You're sort of learning about the culture, especially if you're brand new to the church, and you're trying to figure some things out. A lot of grace, and you just kind of have to be really humble to understand, I don't know everything, and that's okay. But by the time you kind of round the corner to year two, you're going, okay, I should know some stuff. Why am I not getting better? And that's when it gets in your head.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
That's natural. But you, like you said, you keep your eyes focused on him, and you focus on where you're headed, and you just work right through there. And it's always better than it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And now your posture is back to that humbleness of going, I just want to learn. I want to get better. What can I do to improve now that you got to kind of handling everything and going, okay, want to keep learning. And I still do that to this day, because I've been in this thing for a long, long time. I was 11 years as a comm director, and I've been working with churches for a couple of decades. And I still have this, I have to learn. I have to absorb, because there's always something new. God's always doing something different and new. And if I have this position of, well, I know everything, I don't really need to tune into that, then your days are numbered.
That's right. That's right. You'll recognizing you'll never arrive. And I think that's a big piece of Bethlehem's culture as well. Like Pastor Jason is still a learner. Our executive pastor, Matt Pilon, they are still huge learners, heading off to conferences and doing other things. And we love to teach as well what we've learned along the way. And that's one thing I love. I've been able to have a handful of conversations with some churches, just like I'm seeking this year to connect with churches that are at least a step ahead of us to learn from. I've had the opportunity in turn to do that, especially over the last year. And that's one thing that's energized me. I've enjoyed those conversations, and love doing that. But learner posture, I think, just serves you so well.
It does. I get a lot of joy from it. I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
Yeah. When we can help others that are a little bit behind us, they're just a different season and different size church. That's such a blessing. And then when you're learning stuff from new people, That's my joy. I love to teach and coach, and I could do it all day long and never get tired.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are the things that energize you? I mean, you kind of mentioned it, like, and you're taking your cues from your leadership, from Jason down. It's like we have a posture of learning and coaching, and it's just we never want to stop. Is that where do you get your joy?
I think some of the main things I enjoy about what I do, when I first stepped in, what I was most excited about was that I get to work with every ministry team. That made me really excited. We have a very relational culture. Matter of fact, I'm in, speaking of humility, Pastor Jason and Pastor Matt Pylan share an office right now as we work through our transition out. And I'm in their office because if I stayed in my office, people would just be walking right in having a conversation. So we have a lot of fun. We work hard and we play hard. But just getting to work and serve the other ministries and recognizing that that is really what my role is serving the ministries, to be able to communicate the next steps, to be able to help them get people engaged. I love the one-off conversations I have in the lobbies with people. So, in my role right now, I'm not managing a volunteer team at this time, but just 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, I was helping a lady who thought her husband had left his Bible in service. And so she was trying to hunt it down, and she ends up telling me she had some church hurt. They came from out of state, moved to Georgia, have been attending Bethlehem, love it, and wanted to know about membership and talked with her about that, and then serving. And when we walked away, it was like just a burst of energy. Yeah. So that's something that really fuels me. I love those one-on-one things where I'm able to help somebody and get them answers and get them connected in.
You know what? Pay doesn't matter. Workload doesn't matter. When you have those kinds of moments, but you have to work to get into those moments. That's what fills you up. That's why we do the job and why we're involved, is to see those happen.
That's right. That's what we had a creative team meeting yesterday, and one of our campus pastors really challenged everybody. He's like, I picked on him about it because we just have a lot of fun, but he's like, it doesn't matter what your role is within the organization. If you are not connecting with people, when we are looking for a story to share, if you don't have a story to put on the table, you are not doing what you're supposed to do, because we can be consumed with our task, but we are called to minister to people. And so I was like, oh, that is so good. And I'm trying to think, how can I work on meeting newer people and just make sure I always have some stories of things happening throughout the congregation.
Well, and I've always said this, I'm like, if you're a growing church and I'm hearing that there's people saying yes to Jesus and there's baptisms, that tells me God's in your church, which tells me you've got an abundance of stories.
Yes.
You're just not taking the time to go dig them up and work with the staff to figure out who those people are, because stories are really what influence and help others who have the same situation, different outcome. They're looking for somebody. They want to see the hope that somebody else has experienced so they can have it in their own lives.
Yes, that's right. And sometimes, like we were talking about yesterday, it's okay if the story's not finished as well. Absolutely. There's a place for that. And so we were chatting about our discipleship team, obviously, is ultra plugged in with people through group leaders. That's our source a lot of time for stories. You just go ask one of them and they'll tell you, but it really falls on all of us. We should all be spending time and engaging with people and doing life with people. Yeah. And we all are in our own ways, but it was just make sure, you don't get bogged down at your desk and you don't make it across the campus to hang in the lobby.
You're unplugged, and
Yes.
You got to plug back into that. So you kind of mentioned also having to win in communications. What's that? How do you define that?
I obviously, it never hurts for me to be told I did a great job,
Sure.
did something really well. report directly to Pastor Matt Pyland. And so after our Christmas services and all that, he goes, we knocked it out of the park with communication, from mailer to website to social media promotion to invite cards. I think just being clear over cute. And making sure to make it easy for people to find next steps. That's what it's all about, just taking a next step, helping people, just make it easy for them to take a next step in discipleship. So we've talked about a lot of ideas that may come to fruition at some point, but it's not about the number of people we have just coming and attending. We want those people engaged in reading the word. We want those people praying. We just wrapped up a series on prayer, and I'm reading Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools, which was one of the resources Pastor Jason used for that. But there's just so much tangible stuff in there, like praying like you can, not like you can't, and like just starting. And if you aren't someone who's prayed, well, what does it look like to pray for a minute or 5 minutes? Just being able to help people take next steps is what is so important.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay. So we talked a little bit about, your goals for 2024, but tell me what are some of those initiatives that you have planned that you've learned you want to implement?
Yeah, so I am definitely going to be grasping on to anything I can find. Like your website has a wealth of knowledge through a lot of podcasts and other materials you guys have on there. Definitely seeking out, like I said, some other churches that are a little ahead of us. I know you had Jenny Catron on here a short while back. I'm part of her Women in Leadership online group that is actually kicking off this month. So obviously seeking out podcasts that are applicable to my comms world, like social media. I am so fortunate to have Casey, who I depend on to be an expert in that field, but I'm not going to just sit on the sidelines 100% and depend on her. I want us to be able to have conversations. So if she's watching a podcast, I'm going to watch the podcast too and, talk about our takeaways and things like that. So just seeking, I don't know what all those resources are for me this year, but I'm hoping when we get to the end of this year that I just find that I have grown a lot to be able to serve Bethlehem better than where I am at the start of the year. Yeah.
Now, and it's so neat because when it all clicks, when you have a church that's focused on growth and that's what Jesus calls us to do. Like we've got to pass that baton of faith off to the next person. And there's, going after the one ahead of the 99, as I always say.
Mm-hmm.
When you have that posture, it makes communications a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because it's easy to pull like stories and it's easy to get behind excitement of leadership and you get to see like lives being transformed and you're taking advantage of it. So, some advice to those who are listening. It's sometimes if you feel like you're not in that, there's always something going on that you need to plug into, and you got to kind of get away from the desk and go be with ministries and be connected with people.
Yes.
Because there's stories out there, they're happening. And I think it's incredibly important to be using those stories to share with other people who can see the hope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how God moves. Like he's using us. We're his plan A.
Yes.
Good, bad, or ugly, we're plan A. There's no plan B. So,
that's right.
But I know, and as an experienced communication director, you're just a couple years into this role now, but you bring a wealth of knowledge with you from your life experience and your career experience, and so that's exciting. How can people get connected to you? Because I know there's a lot of listeners who love to go deeper with questions. Like you said, you have a heart of sharing. You're a servant leader that goes, I just want to help others. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah. So obviously just keeping up with what Bethlehem has going on. Website. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as of this week. That is brand new news. We are on TikTok, and that actually was a direct result. Casey and I listened to Carrie Newhoff and Brady Shearer, and Brady said a comment to the effect of the next generation is being discipled by consumer brands during some of their most informative and impressionable years. Like, why is the church not on there? Tons of opinions about TikTok. But it was like, wow, like that's so true. So we are starting just a presence there. And then personally, my email, which you can post in the show notes, is a great way. And then I'm on LinkedIn. And if you want to see my two girls that I am very passionate about, you can find me personally on Facebook or Instagram, and you can see the soccer games we're at and how cute my little toddler is.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to go back to TikTok real quick. Thank you for sharing that. So, hey, if you want to get a hold of Candy, do it. It'll be in the show notes. I encourage you to do so. She's got a lot of knowledge to share. Back to TikTok. I absolutely agree. So this is, if we can encourage people to get on TikTok, do it. And I'll tell you, I just got social media accounts. I don't really do social media. I know this comes as a shock, but I'm just not wired that way. I just don't do that stuff. But my team said, I have something to share. I can influence people positively. So I have been recording a lot of videos, just short videos, just giving advice around church communications and everything. And that's how people consume it these days. So I want to encourage you, get your pastor to realize, you don't have to be this influencer, creative. No, you just have to be there and be consistent with it. You have something to share because you're sharing the gospel. Come on, right? So you don't have, but you have to start somewhere and then just be consistent. And I'm learning that. And it's so true. That's where Brady's 100% accurate. It's how young people consume. So we can be part of that or absent from it. Exactly.
And that's what it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh my goodness, he is so right. And even as simple as he said, you're already doing vertical sermon clips. Like if nothing else, you don't even have to spend a lot of time for the platform. Just share what you're already doing on it. And so literally this week we launched on TikTok. So it's exciting just to kind of see how that's going to pick up traction and grow.
Have you created a strategy around that, or you're just going, no, post and figure it out?
We're just going to post and figure it out. We will do probably some just fun things that we may only post there from time to time and may share or reference at least to Instagram about it. But I told Casey, you don't have to be an expert there. Don't spend a whole lot of time on it. Let's just start simply sharing what we're already sharing. And so that's kind of my strategy right now. And then we'll kind of see how it grows from there.
Yeah, I've got a friend who is doing the exact same thing that you guys are doing. He just wanted to pray. He just wanted to go on TikTok and pray for people, and thought this is how I can minister. I can just say a prayer. He started to learn that you have to be specifically, consistent on certain days at certain times, and he started doing that. And I'll tell you, within 6-8 months, he had 200,000 followers.
Wow.
Because
that's super encouraging.
Yeah, he figured out if I post my prayer around 3:30 or 4 o'clock every day, that's when people are at work and they start to look, they get bored at work a little bit. They're starting to go through, and he's showing up and they're liking it. And it's just, this was a couple of years ago. Now he's got over 2 million followers and all of his social channels, and his inbox is so full. He can't keep up. That's a great position to be in, right? And he's just praying. Nobody's special.
Yeah.
So I think I'd encourage everybody to do some research on what are the best ways to utilize TikTok? What kind of strategy should I have? How often? What should the link? All that kind of stuff. I don't think it really matters the background. I think it matters the content you're sharing.
Yes.
And so we got a lot of great content to share. We preach the gospel.
Yes, that's exactly right. And he made a comment in that same podcast about sometimes churches try to think they're at a disadvantage, but you have your key leader spending majority of the week on content. Like there's so many ways you can cut that and slice it and put it out. And so we have done a little bit of YouTube shorts. We always have a weekly sermon reel. And then last year I implemented also doing some YouTube shorts, and it was received really well. We grew a couple hundred additional followers on YouTube in like a really short time. But with people's schedules, and I have somebody else on staff who's not on my team that was taking care of producing those for me. So I have to make sure he's got some margin to do it. So it took a little pause. And now I'm like, that's one thing I'm wanting to bring back and explore. Like I said, the margin of this other staff member, it's not really going to be realistic for him to help with that every week. So I've already got a few other potential options to pursue of making that happen. And even pulling in like our prayer series I just mentioned was received so well on social media and obviously in person. And we've done prayer series from time to time in the past. So that's where I also want to pull out old content and, recycle it and push it out as well. When something, is really hitting with people and they're seeking it, well, we've got more. So let's dig back in and see it's not new to us, but it's new to a lot of people if we put it out there. So that's something I'm working on this year as well.
Yeah. I'll end with this, and we probably need to land the plane, that I say this all the time, that the goal with all these tools should be to engage people and drive them to your website.
Exactly.
Because TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, we don't own those platforms. We're just renting them.
Mm-hmm.
They control all the algorithms. So the goal should be connect with people there, but try to build some relationships so you can get them onto your website, because your website is where you start that relationship truly, and you can start to move them towards attending your church. And
That's right.
You own your website.
Yes, that's right. And it's little things like when you have an event that you share about, don't just post your planning center sign up form. You post the events page of the website as the link that they go to find out more. So just doing things like that. And if this is a nugget that's helpful to anybody, like we're very, very strategic in when we post events and things like that, because we don't want it to be a bulletin board that people just scroll and bypass. So it does matter what you're putting out there. But if we're advertising every day of the week some upcoming event, people are going to tune us out. So we're very intentional when it comes to what we're posting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, Candy, thank you for your time. I could keep going on and on, but we probably have to land this plane. But I just really appreciate, first of all, your passion for Jesus and his church, and you're doing it right there, and you're bringing all your talents and gifts that he's given you. And it's clear to see you love your job. So thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite. It was an honor to join you today, and hopefully something I've said is helpful. And if somebody's listening that could help me, please reach out and share some things with me. I would love that.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, take care. God bless.
All right. Bye.